You gotta have patience. That's not patience. Get off the fucking floor. You gotta have patience. I tell these guys and they don't listen. They have to have patience. Patience this, patience that. What's going on, guys? Another episode of The Ultimate Fighter where we had a pretty good matchup between Thai Lee, sorry if I butchered that name, 4-1 versus Team McGregor's Martin Svensson. 14-5, and he's from Sweden. This was actually a really good fight. I really did enjoy this fight. But before we get to the fight, let's really recap real quick of what happened last night. And, you know, a lot of hostility is starting to arise from the team of McGregor. They didn't like the celebration of Team Faber throwing nos on each other, having like penis headbands, which I have no clue why they were doing that and stuff. So they weren't really too pleased by Faber, and they didn't like the celebration that was going on. We also had a confrontation in Faber's own team. We had freaking Arosa versus Chris. Chris and Arosa, you know, they're having a good time. They're playing pool. They're taking shots. I think it was abstinent or something like that. I never had it before. They're taking shots. And Chris takes the most shots because they bet, like, if every time Chris loses at pool, then he has to take a shot. And this dude's taking shot after shot after shot. He was right. He was drinking, like, the most. So everything's fine and dandy until Chris and Arosa really get heated when Arosa tells straight up to Chris, you were the boringest fight, and I think you're going to be on the chopping block for most boring fight. And Chris did not take that well, and both of them were just at each other's face. Chris threw water and beer at his face, and it looked like they were going to get down, but nothing really came of it. Even Team McGregor came out to see what all the fuss and hootenanny was all about, and it really was nothing. It really was just a drunken tirade and stuff. Really just heated emotions, but entertaining. It was entertaining. I gotta say that. I don't know if I like Chris though. Honestly, I think he's a good fighter. I don't want to say it was the most. I mean, fights tend to, when you're trying to win, I don't want to say he was the most boringest fight, but I could see where Rosa was coming. But I don't know. It honestly was, I don't think too much about it, but I think about this fight last night, and I thought this fight was really, really well. I thought it was great. A little humor, too, was Faber and his whole crew said, okay, let's go get some suits at the Goodwill so we could dress up like McGregor, because McGregor is always dressed up, and then his team came dressed up and stuff. They're all following their coach. So I thought that was pretty funny. I really do love when McGregor and Faber, you know, just they always go at each other, but when they're laughing together and they're just enjoying where they're at, and you know, it's not a bunch of shit talking. It's really just two great fighters who I think they both think they could beat each other, of course, but I think they kind of respect each other. I do enjoy when they both have a laugh, and they know it's the guys' opportunity, it's not theirs. So I do enjoy I did enjoy those two laughing at each other and stuff, and just really having a good time. So going to the fight though, with Lee versus Martin or Svensson, I gotta say Svensson. I believe that's how you say it. Gotta say this fight was really great. I was thinking, you know, Lee definitely had a disadvantage because Svensson was a little bit bigger and a little bit taller, but Lee had strikes, so everybody knew Lee had strikes. He had phenomenal strikes. So going into this fight, I did feel like McGregor's game plan was the best of just, you know, going whenever he came at you, go for those kicks down low to the leg to Lee, and try to take him down a few times, because he is definitely more stand up and stuff. We heard his story about how his father owned a martial arts gym and everything like that. And then Svensson, I mean, you gotta feel for his story, how he really. That's why I think I was more invested in this fight, because there's both of these guys' stories, and you could tell how much they want, especially with Svensson, how he basically. It's taken him like 10 years or something like that, and he wants to get in so bad. He's close. He could feel that he's close of actually becoming a primetime fighter. So going into the fight though, we had the first round where it was really good, man. I mean, they were both feeling at each other. I really did like the feints that they were using, but I think McGregor said Svensson had that round, and that was. You could give it to Svensson, where he took him down a couple times. But he didn't really all too hurt him. He didn't really just punish him. Where Lee ended up getting up, and at the end of that, towards the end of that first round, he landed this massive big right. He mastered some shots that really hurt Svensson. And then I think if the bell didn't ring, he would have been done, because Lee really hurt him with this big right and really connected with some of his combos. And you could tell that stand up is for real. And then we went into the second round, and he was really more successful with the Svensson landed a few leg kicks, especially good leg kicks, using McGregor's strategy. Svensson really shot down for a couple takedowns, and he got Lee down, and it was really just all about transitions, and he ended up getting Lee's back a couple of times, and he finally got a rare naked choke, and he squeezed the hell out of him, and Lee tapped out. Lee tapped out. It was just Lee was definitely, he knew he screwed up a couple times on the ground, and he knew he couldn't really. There was a couple. Faber was screaming at him with a couple transition moves that he could have used. There was a couple times he would have got up, but I felt like Svensson was definitely just bigger, and he was using the weight definitely to his advantage, which was crazy because he had like full guard, he had side guard, he had half guard, he had all that. And he wasn't really throwing any punches. Like, Lee was throwing punches in the first round. Like, he was throwing these hammered punches while Svensson was on the ground. He was really giving to him, whereas Svensson wasn't really throwing too much of these heavy punches or utilizing the elbow as much as I thought he would. But he still got onto the ground. He still transitioned to his back, and he got the rear naked choke. And I thought the fight was very entertaining. I thought there were two great fighters. I think Lee definitely has to work on the ground in those transitions. I kind of expected more. There was a lot of feint. There was a lot of feeling each other out. And there's a lot of missed opportunities for Lee when Faber is absolutely right. When Svensson was going for an attack and he didn't pull the trigger, Lee needs to make him hurt. He needs to really, when he sees him just not make that move, he does a feint, but he looks like he's going to throw a punch, but he doesn't. He needs to make him pay for it, and he really needs to throw some of those shots. If you're going to throw a shot, you make sure you throw it with full strength. So I thought there was a couple of mistakes on Lee's part, like he said, but I think they were both great, and I think Lee just lost his fight. So that's Team McGregor back up, and you got to feel that Svensson it was a good fight, but hopefully he does more a little bit ground and pound when he has that positions like he had last night. So thank you guys for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Would really appreciate it. Like the video if you like it, and comment below I love to hear all your guys' thoughts, even if it's good or bad. I know I screw up sometimes with a lot of the names of the moves and this and that. But believe me, all right, I've been with the Paragon, I've been with the Pit, I've fought amateur fighting. I know everything, but it just never really, I have a bad short-term memory, so everything really just goes on top of my head. It takes me a while just to remember what I watched last night on the UFC fight, Ultimate Fighter. I will say the Ultimate Fighter this season is not as good as previous seasons. It's probably not one of the best ever. I don't even think it's up there with one of the. It's okay. It's fine. But I think tonight's fighters I was a little bit more invested in their stories, especially with Svensson and his struggle to really get known and get into the UFC. So thank you guys for listening. I'm Dan McGregor, son, and I am out of here. Bye, guys.